Sheen. Okay, now we are live, Ben. This is it's for real. It's all happening right now. Hey, Sheen, everybody. Welcome to. We haven't done this in a while. We haven't done this short film showcase in a hot minute. Let me make sure that people can see us because I have us hidden. Now they can see us
under a veil of darkness. Yeah.
All right. It's been a hot minute since I've done one of these, so it's a whole new setup. It's all happening. Let me make sure it's on here. Wow, we haven't done this short film showcase in a hot minute. Let me make sure that people can see us. It's working. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Welcome, everybody. It's Monday. It is, we used to do these all the time, and I'm going to bring them back. But this is the first time Ben's ever been on here because this is my movie, so I can't host the filmmaker. I needed somebody else.
You'd sound like a crazy person.
I can't just be talking to myself. So, Ben Wendt, who are you, and why are you here?
Hi, guys. I'm Ben Wendt. I am a local doer of things. I'm very involved in the live local music scene. I run the Rhino. I host a couple of podcasts, Disney Plus Ben Plus Friends, and Ope Radio. I also dabble in filmmaking as well with Adam's nephew, Jacob Roberts, is my main film collaborating partner. And I mostly write and act. And so I know a little bit what I'm talking about. I can ask intelligent enough questions to validate my being on this stream, I think.
Perfect. Well, I think that you're more than capable of doing so. Ben also has hosted our trivia, BYOB trivia, and he does a fantastic job. He's part 2 of how my trivia is. But these are typically on our Patreon, and if you like this and you like supporting us at Screenland, and if you can't make it out to watch a movie here or see one in the backyard, you can always be part of our film family online at patreon.com/Screenland. Jacob and I do a podcast. Jacob and Ben did one not too long ago.
That's right. I was on an episode recently. It was a lot of fun. I'll have to do one with you sometime.
Yeah. And then I'm going to be bringing this back. It won't be weekly. It'll probably be once or twice a month, but we'll sit down, me or maybe Ben. I don't know. One of us will sit down and talk with a short filmmaker, and we'll watch their movie, and you at home can chat along as well. So that's how this is going to work. So I'm going to cut right into the movie. This is Lost and Found. This is the online premiere. We showed it in front of Predator not too long ago in the actual theater, well, outside. And this was shot last year in Kansas City, Missouri. And, yeah, here's a peek. It's about 7 minutes long. Afterwards, if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat on your right side here. And Ben and I will get to them, and I'll answer all your questions or Ben's burning questions.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Are you ready, Ben?
Oh, I'm stoked. Let's do this.
All right, here we are, Lost and Found.
Atmosphere check.
Atmosphere stable.
Level check.
Resources at 25%. Recording initiated.
This is Commander Hauser of the NASA Expeditionary Unit. Location currently unknown. Possible head injury. I can't seem to recall how I got here, what the hell happened. GPS is down, radio's busted, so I have no way of communicating. No sign of Skyhawk or my crew. I'm running on low resources, so I'm going to be low power mode. I'll have an update forthcoming. Hauser out.
Recording ended.
Don't move. Who are you?
Name's Joe. I'm supposed to be with the NASA expedition.
What are you doing here?
I don't know.
Bullshit! What's your objective?
Hoping you could tell me.
Don't play games with me.
Listen, I don't know what the hell's going on. I woke up here alone. There's no sign of my ship or my crew. I can't remember a goddamn thing.
Sounds like you've been moved.
Moved?
Yesterday, I'm in complete darkness. Couldn't see, could barely even breathe. Today, I wake up in this place.
Where is this place?
Go! Go! Hide!
Look at me. It's okay. You're gonna be okay. You're gonna be okay.
My leg!
No. Look at me.
My fucking
Look at me. Look at me.
leg!
Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be okay. It's okay. What happened? What happened? What did you see?
Huge. See?
Hey, look at me.
Recording initiated.
This is Commander Hauser. Since my last recording, I found a person, a soldier. I wasn't able to get any intel out of her. Something attacked us. She didn't make it. I did find a rudimentary map on her. I mean, you follow it east, but to proceed with caution. There's gunfire. I think my crew might be in danger. I have an update forthcoming. Hauser out.
Recording initiated.
Atmosphere check.
Atmosphere stable.
Level check.
Resources at 25%. Recording initiated.
This is Commander Hauser of the NASA Expeditionary Unit. I just woke up in some field. I don't know how I got here. There's no sign of the Skyhawk or its crew. I need evac.
Neil, time to go.
Look what I found. I found it in the yard.
I lost this guy when I was just about your age. I'll bet he's glad you found him and not the dog. Come on, let's go.
All right, that was Lost and Found.
Yeah.
It's a little wonky in there, so I was trying to fix the aspect because YouTube was like, "Hey, we're not meant to be showing these crazy 4K widescreen movies." Yeah, that's it. What do you think, Ben?
I'm taking over from here on. You're just an interview subject at this point, Adam. You know it's getting serious because I'm cracking open a Space Camper from Boulevard Brewing Company.
I'm just gonna sit here and look right into your eyeballs.
Gosh,
baby.
that's refreshing. Yeah, so we just finished watching the film Lost and Found. It was written and directed by Adam Roberts, who we have on the show today. Thank you, Adam, so much for stopping by.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Ben. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're so welcome. I do want to say that I think that this film is absolutely beautiful, and as you just alluded to a second ago, the stream that you just watched, as cool as it is, you've got to find a way to watch it in the full HD because it is incredible. The depth of the shots, the colors, everything is really stunning. So I guess I'm going to start by asking about the filming of the film. Let's get a little bit wonky. I would like to know, talk about your DP a little bit, talk about your involvement. I know you're a very visual director, so I'd like to know about your process as far as establishing visuals, and then maybe even for the camera nerds in the crowd, just shout out a couple of specific cameras or lenses that you used to shoot the film.
Sure. Well, I guess the idea originally came from Adam Hall, who plays Hauser. He's the main lead in the movie. About a year and a half ago, he was like, "Hey, can I grab your ear real quick? I have this idea I've been thinking about for some time." And he told me kind of like a very loose version of this, like same couple big beats, a little bit bigger. He didn't realize what budgets really could go, how they could go, but he had this grand idea of kind of an R-rated Toy Story, or at least that's what I interpreted it as. And I was like, "Hey, do you mind if I just take that kernel and run with it a little bit?" And he's like, "No, man, whatever." And I did, and I came back with this script, and he's like, "Man, that's great! I can't believe it's so good." And then I approached my good friend Christopher Commons, who's one of the producers and the director of photography on here. And we'd worked together a couple times, and it's been a number of years. So it was just, how can we do this together, and what's it look like, and how much money do we need, and then came together pretty quickly. So I think I turned in the script to everybody in April, and I think we were fundraising in June or July, and we just raised a little bit of money. I think we raised around $2,000, maybe a little bit under $2,000 for everything. So not a lot of money considering the script was like an action sci-fi movie.
Right.
And I'd never done. I had mostly directed like small horror films at this point, but I was excited. I was just like, let's do this R-rated Toy Story, which in my head it was like The Predator meets Twilight Zone. And yeah, so that, I mean, the whole world thing really happened pretty quickly, actually, like from casting. Adam was never really considered as the lead when I wrote it. He just, he's got military background experience. He knows the story, and he read for it, and it just kind of fit perfect. I was like, "Hey, man, it's a toy. We can make this character whatever you want. We're not going for it. We don't need to win an Oscar for this. We just need to have like, the gusto in this." And he did.
The physicality, which he really nails, I think, big time. Yeah.
And, everyone who was involved, like the key players, I think, Chris and I were working on like the shots and design of the movie. Originally, we wanted to shoot the bulk of it on 16 millimeter, and then we're like, "Oh no, that's like a $10,000, $12,000 movie." And so that was out. So it was like, well, what about vintage lenses? And so we chose, a vintage anamorphic lens. So when I say this thing looks gorgeous on the big screen, I really do mean it. I mean, it looks and sounds huge on the big, and it's the best way to watch it on the big screen. But and I know every filmmaker says that, but this is like the first of my movies where I'm like, no, this movie is just something else on the big screen. But Chris,
I can absolutely imagine that.
Yeah. Chris and I just kind of put all these pieces together pretty organically. And whenever it came to effects, I was like, "Oh, just don't worry about it." He's like, "Well, you have this scene where shit's blowing up all over the place. Like, how are we gonna do that?" And originally, the whole movie took place at nighttime, and now it starts in the day and it moves into night. And that was just a necessity, really. Like, it was a lot faster to shoot with natural lighting, and
Sure.
you know, we didn't have all the money to light the entire woods. We also shot this in another cinematographer's backyard, and it was only like a 30 by 30 foot area. The entire movie's in like this small little area, besides the end and when he gets lifted up. But we just kind of like, you know, did this little gritty little movie, and we shot it in 2.5 days, and yeah, it was pretty much exactly what it was on page. Yeah, I don't know where else. Oh, and I don't know, visually, like, it was just I wanted it to feel like a war film, like from the 80s. So you know, something like Predator. A little bit more fun, like action war, and then I wanted the end to kind of turn more into a brightly lit, you know, nicely like set up family film, like you would, like an Amblin movie would be, and
Yeah, absolutely.
have this like niceness to it, like this sweetness to the end, because it is like this kind of almost, you know, a couple people have mentioned it feels a little bit like Lost, and I'm like, oh, that's a great compliment.
Yeah.
And I will for sure take it, and I think it does have that level of Lost. When I was writing the script, I wanted to have like these notes of mystery throughout the film. So
Well, and like Lost, there's like a giant statue that doesn't totally get explained, and there's like a monster that you can't see, and yeah, there's absolutely an energy that is similar to Lost. I know, as you alluded to, you know, you've done a lot of horror, and I wanted to ask how working on horror films and the techniques and instincts you developed from that were beneficial, and then maybe some ways that was a little bit harder, that you had to unlearn some things that you've done.
I think it was better in the sense that this still has like a level of horror to it, and I think it does.
Agree.
You know, I think anytime you're looking at escapism and transporting the audience somewhere else, you have to look at you know, like what takes my breath away, and you know, I truly do love horror the most, and I love the feeling of a roller coaster ride or a haunted house, and so I kind of just took those ideas and took them to a sci-fi action atmosphere. So it wasn't too different, and I think it still like definitely flirts with horror vibes. But I mean, mostly I had done like character work. You know, I dealt with effects, so that was nice, and I was comfortable saying like, don't worry about the effects. You know, the bombing stuff I had never done. I hadn't really even done a gunshot. But Jacob, who actually told me, he reminded me that Steven Spielberg, when he was a young boy in the early 60s, and he was making Super 8 movies, he was making war movies. And there's a documentary you can find. There's a couple different ones. The Spielberg HBO doc has it, but also there's some YouTube footage. And he talks about how he made these war films and why they were so interesting, and he had no budget. But basically, we just copied the same effects he did that were, you know, 50 years old. Which is essentially, you make a small teeter-totter, and you load up a bunch of dirt. And we also put, I mean, we put all sorts of crap, but we had dirt and flowers, so that when it was shot up, the flour kind of emitted a level of smoke. So when Adam was running, and we shot that whole bombing sequence, or the firework explosion sequence when he was running, in real time in 20 minutes, and it was non-fucking stop. It was just the most... it was the most harrowing experience on set, because we were like, the sun's going down, we have no time, and we're just went through ungodly amounts of dirt and dust. But he would just run and hit these spots, and it would just boom right behind him, because as soon as he hit it, the angle of it would just fly up behind him. And then there was probably 5 or 6 of us off to the side, some of us lighting giant smoke bombs, some of the other people launching bigger buckets of dirt and ducking out of camera. And then Hannah Smith, who I've worked with and, you know, on and off for the last number of years, she did the leg being ripped off, and it was no brainer. I knew I could trust her, and it was the easiest thing. But yeah,
gore is awesome.
The bombing was something else, and you know, there is kind of a lot of effect shots, and the script. I remember everyone was like, "Holy shit, man!" And then he gets lifted up into the sky, and you know, it's like this giant spotlight, and I'm like, "It's the flashlight." And
yeah, well, and like the dog drool, and
the dog drool, and then like the treetops shaking. We had like all these, you know, people pulling trees, and like it was just wild. Like everyone just went with it, and the, you know, the small crew we had was just super gung ho to make it all happen.
That's excellent. Well, let's turn to the comments in the YouTube chat. So it's not just me saying what I want to. So Nerds of Nostalgia, which is an awesome podcast. I'm not sure, could be one of the dudes, could be both of them, but they're asking, just in reference to backyard playing, did you grow up? Sorry, did you growing up start putting thought into film? Were you when you were playing in the backyard? Were you conceptualizing it cinematically? I think obviously there is an element of well, you said like R-rated Toy Story, right? There's
Yeah.
an element of childlike adventure to this, and so
Yeah.
was that something that you can relate to personally? And it sounds like Spielberg obviously did.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, I started making movies by myself when I was like 13. When I got my first job was saving up to buy a shitty camera on eBay that was like a super VHS camera or VHS-C camera. And so I was always trying to make movies and trying to, play in a sandbox that was bigger than my own backyard. But certainly, I mean, I had a lot of toys, and for me it was, and this is in the script, like this was kind of the hardest thing to do without shoving it and like spoiling the ending for people. Sure. Was that we shot different takes, and there are different cuts that show the Barb, who he runs into, is her character's name. She is an 80s Army Barbie, and weirdly, like we bought an Army Barbie from the 80s, and the only one was African American. We're like, how did this work out? We had already cast Henrietta, and I was like, I guess I'm gonna have to find some other doll. But the only 80s Barbie we can find that was a military Barbie was a black woman, and we're like, this is fucking awesome. This is so meant to be. And her outfit was identical to what we had already designed. Very cool. But initially it was just like when I was a kid, I blended to the universes. I had the Ghostbusters house, but then I had a Gremlins doll, and then I had G.I. Joes. Yeah. Hauser is named after Conrad Duke Hauser from G.I. Joe fame. His original name was Joe, and he does say his name is Joe in it because they're all G.I. Joe, And originally he was a spaceman. Turns out space costumes were very expensive, so we kind of changed it to a space pilot. So he still is a NASA pilot, as his patches show.
Oh, I was about to ask. He's not in Space Force. He is in NASA.
Right. He's because this is the 80s, right? Like,
oh, you're right. Space Force.
An old figure. So I mean, my in my head, I was always hybriding toys. So when I was writing the script, it was, oh well, this is a Barbie. It has to be a Barbie. Because I grew up with a sister, so like the amount of times our toys would interact were fairly often. Like my guys would be in Terminator, full-size Terminator, and full-size Gambit in the Barbie Corvette or whatever it was.
Sure.
So I mean, I was always like putting different toys together. I never really did stop motion or anything, but that led to like wanting to tell stories. First writing and then like shooting movies and trying to figure that out as a 13-year-old does. But yeah, that's like creating, much like the kid does in this movie, a sense of something bigger than just the in-action figures that you're playing with.
Absolutely. And I also love I've seen some comments that we've sort of touched on, and so I'm not ignoring the questions. But I do think that what I'm gathering in general, there is this sense of really enjoying the way that, kind of unlike Toy Story, that it's this very literal world that the toys are living in, right? Yeah. And so they're getting covered in monster slime, and there really are explosions and stuff. Whereas in Toy Story, they are seeing our world just at a different scale and a different scope. And I think that that's a very cool, effective storytelling element of it. I really like that a lot. Caroline asks a very interesting question, which is, do you ever make movie posters for your shorts? And if you were to make a poster for this one, I might add, building onto her question, what would you conceptualize as the poster?
So there is going to be a poster for this. I was toying with it today. I mean,
you were toying?
I am always less is more kind of guy. I'm a less is more kind of guy when it comes to like posters. I'm definitely not a floating head kind of person. It might end up being the shot of him raising up into the sky, because that's such a.
That's what I was gonna suggest personally. Yeah, I love that.
It's a great moment, and then it's the moment where things change. And when you watch on the big screen, you go from this really big, like full, in our theater, it's the full width of the screen, so it's a real big CinemaScope. and then it shrinks down to this tiny little box and makes it feel so much more like TV, or because real life is boring, but this the cinematic world that these toys live in. So this is all from Joe's perspective. When we were talking about in pre-production, I was like, well, if we followed Barb in this, Barb's whole life and her character background is entirely different than Joe's. Joe has this, I'm calling, mission command. I'm checking in. I need to be evac'd. I have to be with the NASA Special Forces. He's got his whole mindset programmed in his character's background, and Barb's would be totally different. And at one point, it was just going to be a full regular Barbie. It wasn't going to be a military Barbie, but if I did that, it would be like, what the fuck is a supermodel doing out here? And that's what it was going to be. And he found her, and when she died, like originally, he took her pink binoculars off, and there was a little bit more adventuring that went on, and like he went on a little bit. When it was nighttime, there was a lot more adventuring that happened. But yeah. I mean, that was just like time and budget. It didn't really make sense, and everyone's like, I think people are gonna know something's afoot when you show up with this beautiful model Barbie. Yeah.
So I don't totally mean to do this because I don't want to put the film in a box and limit it and scope it all. But I think an interesting thing with short films is always this idea of what if this were expanded upon? What if this were extrapolated? What if this were a TV pilot? What if this were a 90-minute film? I'm just wondering in your head, and maybe you haven't really thought about it, but if this were to be expanded and blown up and stretched out, what would you like to see next? What are some things, kind of like you said, with a little bit more adventuring and things like that? What are some kernels that you could see popping into nice big pieces of popcorn?
Well, so the original ending, so this movie had like 4. I mean, I was Chris and a couple, pretty much everybody who's in the special thanks were helping me out. Like I was pulling my fucking hair out, like trying to figure out what I wanted the ending to land on tonally, and they were all variants of each other, different levels of scope. But the ending that I liked the most, that was just so out of our budget, was the kid. We follow the kid in. He leaves with the toy, and we were gonna actually follow him into the house in one of the endings, and he was gonna be in there playing. And when his mom came in, and he was gonna interact with a lot of toys, a lot of vintage toys. Ooh. And she was gonna say, "All right, it's time to go." And they were at like her mother's house, the grandmother's house, and that's why her toy was there and lost in this backyard. And he was gonna leave all these toys on the ground, and then they were all gonna awaken, and they were gonna find Joe, who's been lost for years, but there was gonna be like Moss Man and like Egon and all these toys were gonna like approach him, and he doesn't. There was a thing that we cut from the script that was a level of amnesia. Every time the toy would go to sleep the next day, his mind would be wiped and he'd wake up. And this is, well, it's still there. He wakes up, he doesn't know.
I think that I was about to say, I think that that reads that way still.
Yeah. And then she talks about being moved, and that's whenever a person picks you up, like you just kind of go blank, and we see him get moved, like we see him hit a tree, but then he wakes up in a field and he's reset. All of his pieces are back on. His helmet's closed, and he doesn't know who he is again. But that was a little bit more recurring. I think it happened one more time, and then at the end of the original draft, like he woke up with all these other toys, and it was very Toy Story-esque at the end of that one. But I mean, if I think to make it work, you have to go. That has to be like the last act. Like the third act is now it's a kid venture, a toy venture. But the first 2/3 have to be real. Like, we had to have blood in there, because for them getting ripped apart, another guy was going to get blown apart, like with a bomb. Like there was going to be an older brother at one point, very Sid-like. I blew up toys all the time on 4th of July, and it was going to be a very much like this guy tied to a tree with a bomb on it, and he was going to give a little bit of information and then explode. Again, budget and things like that, but I think it has to be a level like that, where it's a bigger adventure. The map will gen more points on it. I think you can expand this out and have it play more like a Lost atmosphere. And certainly, if you did like a TV show, you would have to lean heavily into the mystery. And the dog being this monster that just kind of rumbles the ground and pops up and runs around, and with no real rhyme or reason, was a fun was a fun little MacGuffin to use throughout it because
Sure.
it's just like it's just a dog being a dog. And at the end of the movie, if you watch it again, you could see the dog chewing on the actual Barbie that we had and used, and she loved it. The dog just loved it and was like running around. I mean, it's got something in its mouth. We didn't do the close up because it was too on the nose, but you could see the dog like chewing on something on the ground.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it would just be using a lot of these ideas that were in various drafts of it that I had and just exploring them. And yeah, I don't know, like it has to be visceral is like was my rule. It has to feel real for everybody, for the toys, for their own reality.
Sure, absolutely. And yeah, and I could absolutely see how you would the stakes of it feeling real would have to be there if it were going to be any longer. Absolutely. Blake B asks a very important question, which is this going to be on Vimeo or YouTube later? I think probably specifically the highest definition quality of it.
So I think this feed will keep live, so this version will be on there. But I have a cut that is formatted correctly. I could drop on there, so I'll leave it up there for like 2 days. I gotta take it down. Sometime there's gonna be film festivals again. You know, we wanted to get some feedback from the general audiences to see if they liked it and show our cast and crew. I see a couple people talking about the statue. April is 100% correct. It is just a garden statue. Of course, we couldn't build one of those, you know, even though I was like, we could just make one of those out of foam, right? Yeah, we couldn't build like a 30-foot statue because it has to be relative to his size, right? And so it was a couple feet. So when we did the effects, we had Jim McCullough do the effects. It was just making, you know, the statue that appeared out of nowhere and didn't really need to have more purpose than another what the fuck moment. Originally, it was just like peeking out of the trees, and when he used the binoculars, he saw like the head of an angel, the wings of the angel, actually. Because it is like an angel statue in the garden, which my mom had when I was growing up. That's it. Nothing fancy.
Yeah, I love that in the I think if you want proof that it's sticking with people and people are thinking about it, just look at the comments where it's like, what was drooling? I think it was a dog. That makes sense. Was it mustard? You know, like I just love this dialogue that's happening because it does remind me of Lost, of like you said, the Amblin. You know, it seems very Spielbergy, where you're like, there's just enough mystery, there's just enough of a question that there's a conversation that can happen around it. And I love that. So yeah, I mean, you mentioned the idea of pitching this to festivals and things like that. What is the future of the life of this film in your mind?
Well, you know, initially it was just like show the cast and crew. You know, we shot this. We wrapped in September last year, and we jumped into post-production. I think like we totally wrapped with score and everything early this year. So we were planning, you know, we had submitted, the only submission we did was to South by Southwest, which got canceled. So, and it wasn't even finished then. Now it's like totally done. The color's done, and it's played, and, you know, we're very happy with where we ended up at. But, you know, with coronavirus, like there's, you know, film festivals that are going online and things like that. You know, it's a short film, so I'm not that big of a stickler, but it is, you know, a lot of the films I've made don't really necessarily need to be playing in a big theater or a big screen. I think this one, like, it feels huge. It sounds great. It looks great. And it really just, it's totally different. You know, that was the first time I listened with the total mix done on headphones, and it's
awesome
so good in headphones.
Yeah.
The score that Ben Benefield did, unbelievable. Like when we edited it, I put temp music in. It was actually all Michael Giacchino score from.
There you go. Yeah.
From a lot of it was from Lost, and his score has definitely got that Lost vibe to it. But I don't know. I would like to see it play in theaters, but you know, we'll see what happens. We want to get some more feedback and see if anybody hates it. I don't know.
Sure. Well. I loved it, and it seems that everybody in the comments very much, it seems to be that the ending in particular was really praised, which I think is important because this movie does have a little bit of a magic trick kind of appeal, you know, and when you've got a Sixth Sense style twist ending that really is important, it's so important that everything leading up to it is worth watching, so that that it's not just the twist at the end. And so that's awesome that people were invested and feel like it paid off. So that's really great. So you're a man of many activities, talents, etc. I'm wondering, with a film like this that you do want to continue to submit and hope that can have a little bit of life. Are you moving on to other projects? Have you started already writing or thinking about other things? Do you really want to let this film breathe and have its moment? I'm sure there's a little bit of push and pull in your mind about that. So, as an artist who's always trying to move forward, I'm curious about that personally.
Well, one of my main writing partners, Eric Havens, who I has to do a podcast with called The Nightmare Hour. We actually wrote a new feature in April, or we finished it in May maybe. But we wrote this feature called Death in the Family that we're very happy with. And I've been working on my life's work, which is a coming-of-age 1999 set teen slasher movie. I can't shake. So I've been writing a lot on the feature side of things. I haven't really written on the short side. It's just been you're right. There's a million other things going on, and it's been a minute since I really did any of that either. I don't think I've written on one of those scripts since like late June. It seems like it's the best time to write, and it was for a little bit. But then it's just like the weight of the world, right? So this is like a little
absolutely. Yes, 100,000%. You're like, it's like a monkey's paw situation. You were like, if only I had a lot of free time, I could get this done. And then it's like, be careful how you word that, because you've got a lot of time to write, and it's everything's all fucked up.
Yeah, I mean, this is it's an interesting movie because it's like. If this were my first film, I have no idea what my follow-up would be or what type of movie it would be.
Sure.
Like, it's got it's primary action sci-fi, but then it's got this, like, warm family ending. So, and it's a twist movie, and I think it works. So it's like, and it's not really horror. And if you, like, compare it to some other stuff, you're like, that's very different. Yeah, so I don't know. It was refreshing to make something that was not, like, you weren't coordinating like scares. You were just coordinating like action and mystery and scope. Like the big thing I kept saying in this is it's got to be huge at the up till the last 30 seconds. It's just got to feel big. It's got to feel G.I. Joe big.
Right.
And then now I'm like, let's make a movie set in 1999. It's like can't hardly wait, but it's got a slasher vibe to it, and people are getting killed.
I mean, I would enjoy that.
You'll enjoy that it's called A Blood Red Summer is what you'll enjoy.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, the only problem is since it's 1999, you can't have Coheed and Cambria
I know.
or the score. It's
you can't, but it's too perfect of a name not to use it.
It'll be in the trailer. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Or maybe it's like one of those alternate universes where like every song on the and the soundtrack is specifically from pre-1999, except for that one, and it's it was just too good not to use. We had to skip 2 years or 3 years ahead of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm checking. I haven't seen any new questions in a second, so I want to ask you, and feel free, listeners, to still pipe in with some more questions. But maybe my last question, a good one to end on, is. I know as a content creator that there are often moments that I'm really proud of in something that I did. As a songwriter, it's like, oh gosh, I really like this bridge, or actually there's a really interesting story behind these 2 or 3 lyrics, and you don't often get a chance or a platform to actually talk about that. And so I want to ask you, are there 2 or 3 moments in this film that you think are impressive for a different reason maybe than the audience already knows? Something that if you know the background of it, or if they can get in your head for just a second, that it's going to stand out even just a little bit further.
Do I have any hidden anything about this movie? I don't think so, really. I wanted it to be, like I said, like a lot of these other drafts had a lot of those moments that were more like maybe homages to other things, and because budgets and scheduling and just kind of how it was going to work out. Also, some things just got cut because I didn't need it in a 6-minute short film. You know, I think the original
Sure.
script was like 14 pages, and the original cut of the movie is like 9 or 10 minutes.
Oh, you just answered 2 questions at the same time. Look at you. You're gifted.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So, and I'm all about getting that thing as short and as tight as possible. I mean, you'll notice the credits are 18 seconds because we don't, you know, it's a 6-minute movie. We don't need to have a minute of credits, even though everyone worked their ass off and everyone has a nice featured credit in there. There's just, I wanted to keep everything tight and concise and really pare it down to what is the most important things that are happening. And I mean, Barb had another like a minute of dialogue originally before she died that we learned a little bit more information. There was a little bit more mischief, I think, and before he gets abducted, there was a little bit more there too, and a lot more in the end. The original end, I think, is like 2 minutes long, 1.5 or 2 minutes. And it was like, this is too long. We are the end. You know, once that twist happens, let's just get the beats. We need to know the dog exists and the dog is eating toys. We need to know it's 4th of July, and we need to know that's the mom's old toy that was lost. That's all the information we need. That, like, we don't need to know more about it. So, they're a lot longer. I would say it was 13 or 14 pages, and then pretty close to 10 minutes total. But now we're down to, I think, 6 minutes and 46 seconds with credits all in.
Which I can't even imagine a shorter cut. I mean, it's so efficient. It's Hemingway-esque. Everything is mechanical and really serving its purpose. I think this is just the perfect length for a film like this. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. You know, short and tight's always you know, good, and I think this is like I said, this is the first one where I'm like, man, you really got to see it on the big screen to really enjoy it. But it's fun to have some level of conversation, and I think it's a satisfying movie. It's you know, there is an F-bomb or two in it, but the movie feels very PG-13, I think, and you know, certainly I think kids can watch it. Especially the end. I know Megan Flynn. She's the mother at the end. She was also one of the producers on the film. She has a couple young boys, and she showed it to. She showed the long cut, which is has a lot more language and a little bit more gore. And they were like, she's like, they're just eating it all up. They loved it.
Yeah, and that longer cut has that orgy scene too. So
yeah, it's got that weird orgy scene in it. Yeah, you're talking about the cover of Blue Monday, right?
Yeah, right. Just body parts everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, Adam, is there anything that you want to plug coming up at Screenland in your film career? Anything like that? I mean, obviously the Patreon is very important to subscribe to. And if you enjoyed watching this and you like this kind of content, there is quite a bit of content happening very regularly, at least once a week, sometimes 2-3 times a week. That's similar. So I'll jump on your toe there and plug that. It's absolutely worth it.
Yeah, I mean, that's and so when you become a cool thing is if you become a Patreon member today, you could get access to everything before it. So I think I did like 8 or 9 of these short film showcases. So you can scroll through, find all the links. You can watch the chats we had. Me trying to learn all the technology very quickly and failing a lot, but you can watch the short films. I think most of them are up there. I think we dropped 1 or 2 of them because they were on festivals still, but yeah, the whole goal with the Patreon is to keep people talking and keep people watching new films and supporting new filmmakers. This wasn't supposed to be about me, but we just finished it. You know, I wanted to give people a chance who weren't able to come in or out and watch it, and yeah.
Well, and the film rocks, and I mean,
thanks, man.
you deserve a chance to bask in the celebration of it. Adam, you know, everybody who has worked incredibly hard on this, and so you know, I hear what you're saying, but I'll advocate for you for a second that there is a hard line to walk when you're an artist, when you're creating things, because you're proud of it. You poured your heart and soul and sweat and who knows what else into it, and you deserve a moment to look at this thing and say, like, you know what, I'm proud of it. I'd like to talk about it. If anybody wants to know more about it, I'm happy to talk about it. So good on you, and it's awesome. It's a really incredible short film. You can rep yourself. That's right, Bruce.
I'll rep myself.
Yeah, you deserve it. So, you know, thanks for letting us pick your brain. I appreciate it. I mean, I saw a cut of it. I saw this cut of it about I don't know, maybe 10 days back or so, and it really stuck with me. I watched it probably 3 or 4 times that day, And I did listen on headphones, and I've got to say that I really enjoyed getting that the mix of it. It's huge. It's massive. Even I was watching it on my phone, but with nice Bluetooth headphones, and was just thinking like, oh my gosh, this is what a bizarre experience that the sound is as if I'm in a movie theater, and then I'm looking at just these awesome images, but it's such a small screen. So yeah, I hope people get a chance to see this on a big screen. I definitely think this could have legs in the festival, scene, and so I hope that all happens. But yeah, any last chances for questions? April says it was cool to see the creative side used to just the business side, which yeah, it's awesome. Adam contains multitudes.
Secretly, there's a lot of the business side that is the creative side for me. You just don't realize that, like, doing like graphic design and like editing videos for pre-shows and stuff, and whatever, like coming up with ideas for things like shirts and posters and things like that. I can't draw worth a shit, so I have to rely on somebody else. But I'm an idea guy, is what you say.
Yeah, you're like Ratatouilleing Perry's hands. Like,
yeah. I'm literally the puppet master. Yeah. So if you want to keep supporting cool shorts and stuff, patreon.com/Screenland. You'll get a whole access, at least 2 watch parties a month, but usually there's 3 to 5 short films coming back. If you're the top tier, you get weekly trivia, which usually costs $5, so it kind of pays for itself. And you get our weekly podcast, you get some blog posts, and if you're joining now, you get all the stuff, the back catalog, which is quite cool. So even my one-on-one conversation with Mr. Kevin Smith, which is really, really interesting and fun.
Wild.
Yeah, that's it. Let's wrap this up.
Let's wrap it. Let's act like this is a Christmas present. Just wrap it up.
All right. Well, thank you for doing this, Ben. Thank you all for tuning in. Where can they find you one more time?
Yeah, so I'll plug my podcasts. I've got 2 podcasts. One is called OPE Radio, OPE exclamation point radio. It's a Kansas City, Lawrence local music podcast. Each episode we play 10 songs by local bands, and I just kind of provide some context and try to help you find new music that you're going to like. I also host a podcast called Disney Plus Ben plus Friends, and it's all about Disney Plus. It's each episode we talk about a movie that's on Disney Plus. Adam is going to be on an episode coming up pretty soon. We're going to be talking about Avatar, which I'm really excited about. So yeah, feel free to subscribe to both of those podcasts. If you like them, tell people about them, and go to Screenland and spend money at Screenland. That's what you should really do.
All right, that's it. He told you all the facts, and now I'm going to tell you the truth. And the truth is, we're all done here.